Hi, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the distinguished speakers for taking your time out to come forward on this Friday. If I were you, or if anyone would have been in your place, would have spent time with the family, or probably chilling out on Friday evening, right? So you are really taking out your time to spend and share your knowledge on the great topic and trending topic globally. Everyone is looking forward to listen to your insights and your perspective, and also kind of ideology, and also your experiences with your current organization and also the industry happening. It really gives us a great privilege and pleasure to have you today for the leadership roundtable. The great resignation pandemic is a trending topic. We have speakers from US, also from India and Latin America, and around the world that we have the leaders. We have HR leaders, WFM leaders, and also some of the global leaders, but also a few of the academicians. What a great combination to have all of us together to discuss this and creating kind of huge value to the community. Thank you so much for taking your time out, all the distinguished speakers, to talk about GWFM. I'll just take exactly 120 seconds to just talk about GWFM. GWFM started 6 years back. We didn't know that the forum is going to grow big. We are pretty well known in the global market. You talk to any of the leaders, they know about GWFM. We are a chartered body in South Carolina, USA, and also from education approved chartered body from Canada, Montreal. And we are present in most of the regions like North America, ANZ, Latin America, APAC, and Middle East. In fact, this year we have started the chapter in Middle East and also in South Africa. We had the events, and each region as a kind of leader and also committee would support them. By 2022 onwards, we want to have every country, wherein every country would have GWFM presence. Also, like we have been supporting on the knowledge sharing and professional networking. Also, since a few years, we have started university, where GWFM Corporate University, where we have the learning in the WFM area, one of the finest programs at which we are offering. Also, we are providing corporate membership and also contributing in the upskill area. Of course, building professional bodies in each countries and getting to know what is happening in the market. And many more things that which we are doing. In fact, we are trying to solve the business problems and also industry problem. Acting as a thought leader in the global market. And we have been evolving, and most of the WFM and HR leaders have been speaking in our forum since last few years. And some of them have been a great support as an advisory. We have Jai and also Srikanth as part of the advisory in this forum, and Sebastian from Latin America, Colombia. It really gives us a great privilege to have you, and we have been doing a lot of activities. In fact, we are known as one of the awarding body in the industry, especially in the workforce management area. We've been doing a lot of activities globally, and want to get connected with all the industry leaders, talk about trends, and encourage professional networking. With this, we will kickstart the roundtable, leadership roundtable. With this, thank you so much for all the leaders who are joined in and taking time out, and also the audience, lovely audience. Thank you so much for joining in. Trust me, today we're going to have huge value, also huge learning in this process. Thank you. With this, I invite Pato, co-founder of GWFM, to take over.
Good afternoon to everyone. Good evening. And again, this is something which has been close to everybody's heart, not in the real passionate way, but yes, this has been troubling us very much. I'm talking about the Great Resignation. Now, before I begin, I have a few questions which I am putting across. Do you like your job? Does going to work make you happy? Would you rather be at home with your family? These are questions people are asking. Let's look at the genesis of this crisis. According to a Microsoft survey, 41% of the workers want to quit their jobs this year. And according to Monster, 95% of Americans want to quit their jobs this year. Many already have. We are in the middle of the Great Resignation. Now, This term has been coined by Anthony Klotz of the Mays Business School, Texas University. Now, Anthony, I spoke to Anthony just a few days ago about joining up here, but he had other engagements, so he couldn't be with us today. He's called the trend the pandemic epiphan. But why are people leaving the jobs? Where are they going? And should you consider quitting too? If you are an employer, what should you do? The crisis has begun. According to a Microsoft survey, as I said, 41% of employees worldwide are planning to quit their jobs in 2021. The scene in US is the most shocking. 4.3 million people quit their jobs in August 2021, 2.9% of the working population of the US. 20 million quit their jobs since April 2021. In Germany, 1/3 of the companies are short of skilled workers. Currently, there are 400,000 job vacancies for skilled workers. In the OECD member countries, 20 million workers have not returned to work since the Wuhan virus struck. And as far as the rest of the world is concerned, attrition rate in the tech sector in India is up by 23%. In Vietnam, many low-paid government workers have not returned to factories. In the Caribbean, 1 in 6 workers aged 18 to 29 have quit. In China, there is a shortage of workers in the tech sector. Welcome to the Great Resignation. So what can leaders do to engage, grow, and retain members of the team? We are pondering on these thoughts. What's driving the trend? Is the Great Resignation a foreign influence or an alarm bell for nations across the world? What can be done to retain and arrest this exodus? People have gotten used to greater freedom and flexibility. How should remote work be viewed? How best do we handle remote workers and freedom and flexibility? Welcome to the GWFM Global Leadership Roundtable on the Great Resignation. Our speakers, Shrikant Arimantaya, Global Talent and Enablement Services Leader, EY Global Delivery Services, Bangalore. Umesh Pawar, Advisor, Mentor, and an angel investor, ex-partner and CHRO at KPMG and ex-Global Managing Director, Human Resources, Accenture from Mumbai. Jay Parikh has joined us from South Carolina, United States. He is a Senior Vice President, Workforce Management at Results CX from Dr. Harry, Executive Vice President, CHRO, Ascent Telecom, Ahmedabad. Sebastian, WFM, EVP, WFM, Data and Process, Teleperformance, Bucaramanga, Colombia. Vinay Agarwal, Global Head Business HR at Tech Mahindra, Hyderabad, India. And Saurabh Sharma, Senior Vice President, CEO Office, First Source from Gurugram, India. Then we have Adityapal Singh, Director, Head TA, Informatica, Bangalore. Sampath Arati, Vice President and Head of Human Resources for APAC at LAP, Asia Pacific from Singapore. Rolly Singh, Head of HR, VFI SLK, Bangalore, India. Renu Bora, CHRO, India and Subcontinent, DB Shankar. Hope I have got it right, Renu. Georgos Kagalos, Regional Head of WFM and Teleperformance, CMA, Greece. Dr. Devashish Sengupta, Professor, Royal University for Women, Bahrain. Vijay Shivaram, CEO, Quest IT Staffing, Recruitment and Search, Bangalore. And Jagdeep Chakravarti, Global Head Human Resources, Digital and Consulting Business and India Region, Explio Group, Bangalore. The session would be moderated by Madhura TR, Chief Learning Officer, EY Global Delivery Services. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting GWFM Global Leadership Roundtable on the Great Resignation. Over to you, Madhura.
Wow, what a lineup of speakers, Partho. Thank you so much for introducing all of them. And, it's all the great minds, all the great leaders coming together to discuss the great resignation, right? Congratulations on this wonderful initiative, Parthu and Shiv. And thank you so much for the opportunity for inviting me as the moderator for this session. And it's an absolute pleasure to be moderating this discussion amongst all the senior leaders that we have today on the panel. Of course, it's going to be a very engaging discussion. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the esteemed panelists, senior HR and workforce management leaders of the industry, the audience who's here to seek answers to some grappling issues we have today as folks responsible to attract, retain, and engage our high-performing individuals in our respective organizations. My name is Madhura, and I lead learning at EY Global Delivery Services. It's called GDS in short. I've been with the firm since 2006, and I'm sure you'll agree that the great resignation is creating havoc at the last thing we want during a pandemic, for sure. A little bit about me. I'm a certified coach by the International Coach Federation, a culture practitioner, a certified facilitator for social styles, TRACOM, and everything to do with understanding people better, but constantly wondering and thinking, what can we do to win the war for talent? What can we do to continue to keep people at the heart of everything that we do as an organization and cater to their priorities and still win in the market, which is a balance that we are struggling to strike today. Great Depression then, Great Resignation now. So what is great about an event in the 30s that caused an economic meltdown and took the world a decade to recover from? We all know it's the Great Depression. And in today's world, depression is often associated with mental health, compounded by various factors, which could be lockdowns, work from home fatigue, various factors, and personal losses. Use of the word depression does not really bring up a financial crisis in the current context, right? In contrast, even amid the COVID-induced joblessness, millions have been switching jobs during the last several months. And just like Partho just mentioned, why are these people leaving? Where are these people going? 400,000 job vacancies. Wow. Making businesses scramble for an antidote, but employees have been enormous gains. So the phenomenon appears to have been described right, the Great Resignation. And just like Anthony Clogs, who coined the term, who's a psychologist, who absolutely talks a lot more and gives a lot more insights around the same. And we absolutely look forward to speakers like him to be a part of this discussion in the future. So uncertainty has many leaders feeling paralyzed. Return to office plans have been written, rewritten, delayed, shelved, and shredded in many cases. Would be lovely for all of you to go on mute. Could I request you guys to go on mute if you're not speaking? And absolutely in a moment, we'll give you a chance to speak. So work from home requirements from employers have turned into work from home expectations from employees. Businesses can't find workers to meet pent-up demand, and the unprecedented willingness of workers is simply quit is keeping leaders awake at night. Then there are absolutely explosive complexities around the pandemic, the vaccinations, travel bans, and many, many such things in front of us. So the Great Resignation leads to the great hiring rush as well. That is what we face today, because there is a demand, but there is a shortage of a supply pool. Today, it's a candidates market with multiple strategies we're working on to manage the war for talent. The winner here is truly the candidate. Our top performers who we invested in heavily are being offered dream jobs, dream roles, minimum 3 to 4 offers in hand. They're offered 80 to 100% hikes on their compensation, benefits, stocks, flexibility, and even I heard BMW bikes. Wow. Who would want to miss that? Imagine there used to be a time when there was an employment exchange with a long queue of people seeking jobs, but today organizations have a 40 to 60% offer dropouts. Attrition as high as 23%, Partho just mentioned to us, right? So the Great Resignation absolutely has seen disengaged employees leave organization in astonishing droves over the last 6 months or more, 8 months, worsened by the COVID crisis for sure. This phenomenon has signaled a market change in how workers are viewed, what is most important for them in their roles truly. As organizations and leaders look to understand the root cause of this mass exodus, there are also scrambling to scale hiring up. and record numbers of job vacancies. It's becoming absolutely a Herculean task for companies to not only fill these open positions, but find enough recruiters to actually facilitate these hiring. So we are losing critical talent, and it's a huge issue. Still, when companies see their investments on talent dissipate and go in vain, what makes it the great resignation, I wonder? So, as leaders, balancing priorities, managing to make the buck, and managing to save that buck has become a huge question. On the other side, we also have heard a lot in the past, over the past decade, I should say, the VUCA world, which is volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, digital and business disruptions. How do we lead through change and multiple such terminologies that have always been there? So, is this great resignation something that we didn't see coming? And may I request folks to please go on mute? That would be wonderful. So, is this something that we didn't see coming?
Krishnendu, I think noise from your side.
Thank you so much, Partho. Is this something that was supposed to happen anyway? Did we not catch the signals earlier on? And did we take people for granted? So there are multiple such questions in our mind, and we're all desperate for an antidote. So what is our Moderna? What is our Covaxin, Pfizer, Janssen? Are we setting up testing labs to research and manufacture these antidotes in our organizations? What are we doing to address the endemic? What is working, what is not? Or is this just a bubble that will burst soon? So what could be some of the short and the long-term strategies we need to adopt as senior HR and workforce management professionals, leaders in the industry to handle this? We're here to discuss all of this and much more in the next 2 hours today. We will listen to all of you. There are some very, very interesting questions that we will pose to you, because we know that you are not only yourself alone in this journey, but you are working with other HR professionals, business leaders, data scientists, people managers, employees themselves to arrive at a formula to address this challenge. And since this involves people, which is at the heart of everything that we have to do and not really a math for the formula, it's not going to be an easy win, because people are in demand and they demand growth and development. On that note, I'd like to welcome all of you once again to the Roundtable of Global Workforce Management. Thank you for taking the time to join this discussion. And with the leadership of Partho, Shiv, and Shri, who would be joining us very soon. And I really look forward to this discussion. So,
Shri has joined.
Oh, wonderful. Hi, Shri. Thank you so much for joining.
Excellent summary of the context setting, as well as the energy what you brought into the topic is well deserved. So thank you very much. So keep going. I will jump in as appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shri. Thank you so much. And as we all know, Shri is the Talent and Enablement Services leader of EY. We absolutely look forward to he sharing a lot of insights along with all of you esteemed panelists today. So the format of this discussion is very simple. We have two parts. The first part being an introduction. Each of you would get about 2 to 3 minutes to introduce yourself and also share some very quick perspectives and thoughts on the Great Resignation from a perspective of your organization and the industry that you belong. The second part of it will be a set of interesting questions that we have for you today, which we will probably pose in a very direct manner, calling out some of the professionals, depending on the roles that you play. And that is what the second part of the discussion will be. And the last 10 to 15 minutes is what we'd like to keep for a question and answer round. And I hope that we have enough time to do that, because we absolutely want to address some of the questions that our audience has and seek some answers from senior leaders like all of you. So on that note, I'd like to request, one of you to get started. And Shri, if you'd like to go first and introduce yourself and share some quick perspectives, that'll be great to maybe, yeah?
Thank you. And EY have a kind of a strong perspective in this marketplace on war for talent. We call it as to address the Great Resignation. And we see this Great Resignation scenario as an opportunity to reimagine talent function, as well as use innovative technologies like digital technologies, as well as new ways of really attracting, engaging, and retaining employees. So how we are addressing from EY perspective is we are building a best-in-class recruitment engine. To give a few examples, prior to pandemic or prior to great resignation, for technology, we used to onboard around 500 people. And today in technology, we have around 3,000 people. So 6 times is our onboarding in terms of technology consulting. Similarly, in all other functions like tax or assurance or strategic consulting, we are hiring in large volume. And most of our delivery centers are in competitive market like India, China, Manila, Argentina, as well as in Eastern Europe. So we emerged as a, what do you call it, as success story in terms of recruitment. And we have really cracked the central sourcing team with innovating sourcing ideas triggered by excellent market intelligence on each market. Earlier, we used to do blind sourcing. That means you don't know the market you are sourcing enough to really have a strategic impact in sourcing. Today, we do targeted sourcing. Thanks to the data and intelligence we created in sourcing, and we know clearly which market, what kind of talents we are having. Then we also used entire candidate lifecycle, the technology, including gamification and what do you call it as psychometric assessments and technical assessment through hackathon and many innovative ideas in screening and selecting candidate and onboarding. The last one in the recruitment area, we also could definitely able to, what do you call it as, building external ecosystems like recruitment process outsourcing. Then we also engaged strategic vendors to really attract and engage candidates in all the markets we operate. And I can proudly say we are one of the, what do you call it as, high velocity recruitment engine we have created, and we have seen our demands are 3 to 4 times, and our recruitment is able to fulfill most of the demands because of the recruitment reimagination we have done using digital technology as well as data sciences. Maybe absolutely we can walk you through at some point what are the innovation we have driven in recruitment. The second one is in terms of employee experiences. We have a say, it is yours to build it, and we always believe exceptional employee experience is a long-term investment. And the recent employee experience survey, we scored 85%, which is best in the industry. Again, because we have really engaged our employees beyond traditional compensation levers through culture, leadership connect, as well as connecting employee purpose to the organizational purpose. The last one in terms of retention, we have launched a retention lab. And retention lab, I don't know how many of you really reflected some of the best practices outside talent like physics lab. And physics lab is an excellent concept where the physics lab in charge create a network of various labs across the region or across the global, and they drive greater innovation. So we have used that concept of physics lab to drive talent retention lab, where we understand talent attrition very detailed way, predict using algorithms at an individual level who is high risk of losing, and we can prescribe intervention to arrest attrition. So we have used a lot of new methods using retention lab to really dissect the data and predict attrition and control it. As a result, we have best-in-class attrition or best-in-class retention. It is less than 20% in this war for talent when our peers are at 25 and 30%. So to sum up, we have used this as an opportunity to reimagine the talent process. We have used this opportunity to drive business a little differently. For example, always we want the best fit. If you have 100 competencies, you want candidate 100 competency to be met. But we have come up with a concept called the best fit and the best bet. That means the people who have adjacency skills, who can be trained in 30 or 60 days, with that adjacency skills, we started hiring. So a lot of innovations around the concept of job description and the job fit using, again, data science and technology. So I'll pause for a minute. Madhura, absolutely, we are seeing as an opportunity to reimagine talent.
Thank you so much, Sri. And I absolutely witness that on a daily basis as you are leading us through this vision that you have. Thank you so much for sharing that. And, may I request then for us to move to Unmesh and probably Jay after that. Unmesh, please introduce yourself
Unmesh
and
is
share your
not here.
perspectives.
Unmesh couldn't make it, Madhura.
No problem. So should we move to Jay if that's possible?
The Jay is around. Yes.
Thank you. Jay, over to you for your introduction and some quick perspectives. Thank you.
Hey, can you guys hear me okay?
Absolutely. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. So I support WFM practice in Results CX, and I've been in either in the contact center industry or customer service industry for last 20 plus years, right? And I've gone through iterations on both the operational side, managing core operations, as well as support functions. My perspective on the current events that have been going on for last several months is it kind of puts a focus on our team members, right? I think that some companies may have diluted over the years, right? I think because everybody's so focused on driving the efficiencies, driving the profitability, and that has a some level of impact on a employee-centric organizations, right? You always have to balance the life of an employee to life of the organization, right? In form of profitability, right, running the right margins, right? And there is always a healthy argument between the two, right? And how do we continue to balance that more and more? I think that's coming a lot more in focus now of, for organizations that have been driving a lot more efficiency than employee-centric values. And, that's what's providing a lot of these employees opportunities that they have not had, right? I think, when you see employees being offered 100% more, right? There is some level of market saturation that's taking place. Organizations that have had healthy margins in their books are able to offer a lot more value to the employees, right? So, and I think that provides a different perspective for employee to kind of get a better value out of the market, right? I think so. We will continue to see that over next year or so, and that it's going to get more and more interesting, right? As to how we evolve as an organization, throughout the regions, throughout the globe, and how do we continue to adapt to the new environment, right? All these team members or potential team members that have resigned or are looking to resign, there has to be some way of managing their family health, right? They're earning incomes, right? If they're not coming back into the normal traditional work environment, how are they earning the income, right? Some of that has to be supplemented, and how we look at our overall ecosystem has now expanded to another level, another layer, and that has to be incorporated in our traditional setup as well to continue to drive that hybrid management. Thank you.
Absolutely, Jay. Employees and people are at the center of everything that we do. And thank you so much for sharing your perspectives. And I'd like to invite Dr. Harry, if you're on call, please, to introduce yourself. Next, thank you.
Yeah, hi, good evening, everyone. Happy to be part of this panel discussion. This is Harry. I head the HR for Sun Telecom. I'm based out of Bangalore, not Ahmedabad, as it was mentioned in the introductory presentation. Of course, we are into telecom, and more than me, every one of you may be realizing the need of network telecommunication during this pandemic. We never had a day of lockdown in our office. If we would have locked down in our office, probably the network across the country would have gone through a struggle. Whereas we have been awake all 24/7, and every minute of our uptime counts for us as much as it is counting for each one of us in the industry. Now, before talking about Ascent Telecom, the title itself, I would like to discuss. Instead of calling it a great resignation, why don't we call it a great attrition? If a person is resigning from me, where does he go? As far as the industry is there, industry needs to maintain its sustainability. Industry has to maintain its continuity. Economy has to grow. All of us have to feed ourselves. And so we need to keep working. This set of a mass set of people, who are engaged in contributing, working, and, to make sure that the industry grows or the economy grows, all of us may resign from here and move to some other location, may resign from there, again move to some other location, and may resign for my own reasons, may resign for 101 other reasons. So how do we call it just a resignation? Are we not trying to limit ourselves while saying resigning? We are not resigning for fun. The resignation happens for a purpose. The resignation happens with a background. The resignation happens so that the employee can move on with their life. So I would like to treat it as more an attrition rather than limiting myself to call with a negative term of resignation. Now, coming back to this particular organization, Ascent Telecom, last year we had about 1.5% of attrition, and this year we have reduced to 1%. Not because that that there are no opportunities, not because that there are no industries to hire them, but primarily because of the culture, the understanding with which we have moved forward. If you have to say that what could be those objectives with which we have moved forward, is we have stuck to certain important values. One is relational value. How do we relate with my team? How do my leaders relate with their team? Second is a transactional value. We continue to make our people realize that they are paid to their potential. They are paid to the kind of skills that they have acquired or the contributions that they make. So there is a continuous search in the industry to understand the employee's perspective of their own value, and so adopt those perspectives in the real situation. If, let us say, if I miss 1 minute of my uptime, there is a huge penalty charged on that. So would I be willing to pay a penalty, or will I be willing to pay the right kind of a market value that an individual deserves? So apart from concentrating on relational value, we have started concentrating on transactional value. Third thing is, we have started adapting to hybrid work model. The traditional model has slowly being, is missing its track. So what we thought was, the millennials want a really happening place. They want to do what they love, not what you give them to do. So there is a huge difference today. So what we thought that, the traditional model of monthly salary, monthly KRA, monthly assignment is not going to work anymore. What is going to work in the future is, can we adopt a work model wherein I can pay for, every week? Can I pay based on assignment? Can I pay based on working hours, or what they contribute actually to the organization? So we have started adopting all those models. And the important thought that all of us need to carry is, keep monitoring the toxic leaders in your organization. What we did as a primary job was to ensure these toxic leaders are under a watch, under a close watch, so that they don't hurt, they don't become negative contributors to the organization. So these toxic leaders, their words, their actions, their approach, their leadership style, everything is under watch. At the end of the day, what happens is that these leaders, if they potentially don't contribute to the organization, then we are willing to sacrifice them rather than keeping them as a stagnant resource. That was another system that we adopted. Equal opportunity is not just a slogan in our organization, be it male or female, be it physically challenged or hale and healthy. We have kept everybody equal, so that as an organization, we are being perceived by the industry one of the best. Then watch out for an impartial work environment. That's again, in an organization which is spread across the country, we thought that this is a very important character as an organization we need to build for ourselves. And we have built it. Finally, as a take home, I would like to say, it is only the empathy and compassion, which are the two values and virtues that we as an organization have practiced and developed and cherished as an organization, due to which our attrition rate has been very, very, very low, or within a limit of 1 to 1.5%. I believe that, this high performance culture, this culture which values individual, their contribution, and allows people to do what they love rather than what I have, is making this organization a better place to work. In a small industry like telecom infrastructure, which has got barely 7 to 8 organizations with a lack of resources, it would be a real challenge to get the right kind of a talent into Ascent Telecom. However, we have always been successful in getting the talent, in spite of we not being the best paymaster, in spite of we not being the best brand name in the industry. Still, we have been successful and have always been 15 to 20% higher EBITDA we have been providing to the industry. That's the kind of a organization that we have developed, and that is Ascent Telecom. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Harry, and many congratulations on building this wonderful organization that is based on empathy and compassion, that you drive a strong culture and values within the organization. We absolutely are very excited to hear a lot more around what are some of the key initiatives you drive to build this strong culture. And I'm sure the panelists are and the audience is waiting to hear more from you. Thank you for your introduction. If we could move to Sebastian, that would be wonderful.
Thank you, Madhura. Hi, everyone. My name is Sebastian, and I oversee the workforce data and process capabilities for Teleperformance Middle Americas region. And as we have all seen, and Shri shared with us, this phenomenon that we're seeing is not just in the US, as it is started, or in a specific technology or data industry, but it goes across all geos and all industries, right? So it's if we are here, it's because we have already acknowledged that there is an issue ongoing, and that probably we're not all on the same page on what is causing it and how to fix it, but we do know that there is a problem. And I want to share a few things that we are doing from our organization on how to attack this, how to retain and attract and retain the talent. And the first one is, of course, is hiring some Sri mentioned, the flexibility and how we want to work, not from home, but from anywhere. The millennials and centennials, which is a huge portion of our workforce, they just want to work from wherever they are. They don't especially need or want to go to a site. So flexibility and being able to work from wherever they want is key in that. And we have taken, we believe that we need to secure two main points so we can have this or make this happen within the organization. That's first, security tools, so we can make sure that our clients, the clients we served, are comfortable and trust us, because we have the best-in-class security tools to make sure our workforce won't be able to do anything that they shouldn't do for the trade. And performance. If we can secure the people will have the same or best performance that when they are home, that when they are outside. We leave those two main points, security and performance, will make it easier to continue working from home, sell those ideas to the clients we serve. Those are the things that we have encountered as the most objections when we want to keep working from home, right, and keep the new normal. So around security and performance, we have developed tools that help us control the performance and security of our agents. And that's the first point. But we also have invested a lot on the employee experience. And I couldn't agree more with Hari and Sri that if we have a healthy culture in the organization, if we focus on how our employees are being treated, that's one of the easiest way to keep your people within your organization. So we have set a whole new vice presidents on around employee experience for our people, mapping all the employee journeys depending on the role and everything, and then make sure that every contact they have with the organization, every contact with any capability that we have, it's a remarkable experience for them, from the tracking process, the onboarding, medical exams, till how they get trained for the specific client they're serving or their specific role they're doing. Then when they receive the paycheck, how to explain that, how are we transparent on these things. And across the whole life cycle of the employee, we are aiming to have memorable experiences for them and make it easier to, as we want to be easier to make business with for our clients, we also want our employees to feel that it's easy to do business with us and to work with us. So that's the second pillar that we are working on. And the third one is to predict who is leaving. So 80% of our workforce are customer service agents, and well, not customer service, contact center agents. So we have developed an algorithm that allows to predict if an agent is going to leave the company or not within the next 30 days. So we can develop, proactive experiences with them, proactive talks. Let's talk to them, what's going on. We haven't yet got to the prescriptive part where we can tell them why are they leaving so they can focus and narrow down to one specific action. But what we can tell them is that they are in risk to leave. So HR or the supervisor, depending on the context and how it is, they can talk to them, and we have found that just talking to them and realizing or listening to them, that make them feel listened, loved, cared of. So we have been able to reduce the attrition by 2 points since we implemented it across the organization. That was almost 2 months ago. We have been working in this for since 2019, but then the pandemic came and all our our models went down, and we had to stop to make sure we just keep business going. So we started again at the beginning of the year, and having surpassed the challenge of being able to do this at the scale and not just for a specific clusters within the organization, so we can do it easily and it's scalable. We have found good results, and as the time goes by, we will hope to make the model more accurate and still keep predicting who is going to leave, so we can take proactive actions. So upon those three pillars, we have built our strategy on how to attract and retain people. First, flexibility, working from home, security and performance. Then how we make sure that every interaction our employees have, it's a memorable experience with us. And third, how can we predict who is going to leave, so we can make sure we take proactive action. Thank you, Madhura.
Thank you so much, Sebastian, for sharing your views and calling out, predictive analysis is something that I think most organizations are trying today. Like just Sri mentioned, the retention lab. And I'm a little tempted to talk about, GDS as an organization where we absolutely, and I resonate with all the leaders who are speaking today, talking about culture and values and our purpose being the bedrock of everything that we do. How do we get our employees to align their personal purpose to the organization's purpose? And in EY's case, our purpose, our organization's purpose is building a better working world. And who will not resonate with that purpose, right? We all want to work towards building a better working world. Our DEI strategies, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusiveness being absolutely the foundation of how we build our culture. And our exceptional employee experience from hire to retire, the entire life cycle of how we engage, attract, and retain performers. And our learning strategies, which is something I'm very, very passionate about. Just to mention that we absolutely have people leaving for reasons to do with career or reasons to do with higher education, especially the zillennials, so to say, right? So we have a tech MBA program where EY is out to give 350,000 MBAs with the Hult University, which is for free, right? It's absolutely the commitment that we need and a learning mindset and a culture. And, that's what people are going to get. And I'm so happy and excited to share all of this while, all of you are sharing about the organizations. I'm very excited to share about EY as well. And I'm very sure Sri will talk more about all of this as we move on. I also noticed that there are some questions coming, in the chat window. But just to let all of you know that we will absolutely take questions towards the end of the session. The last 15 to 20 minutes, we'll absolutely dedicate the questions. So thank you so much, everyone. On that note, let me hand it over to Vinay. Vinay, if you're on call, please introduce yourself and a couple of perspectives from you. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm responsible for the VHR function for IT business of Tech Mahindra globally. So few things what we've done is, so first thing is, I think wave 2 was very, very bad, April, May time frame. There was a lot of people got impacted. So we did basically everything possible for our associates, families, past partners, customers. We had toll-free number 24/7. There were help desk set up centrally as well as a teach center. All 5 cities, we converted our guest house facilities into the COVID care center for medical supervision of people who need medical attention. We had something started 5 years by something called Associate Welfare Trust, which is a kind of crowdfunding for the hospitalization expenses. So during COVID times, about 300 people were supported with a disbursement of about 5 crore rupees. So this was an employee initiative. It's not company intervention. In terms of the attrition, one, of course, the hiring stepped up big time. So laterals as well as fresher hiring. Nodal center we are opening in Coimbatore, Vijayawada, some tier 2 cities where So basically, people we are hiring, and somebody says that I want to work from the hometown perpetually. So that option is really working well with people. Proactive retentions apart from the reactive retentions of critical people. So we're basically not very strongly going for the retention of all, because it sends a wrong message. But some critical associates, of course, we have to, and we focus more on proactive ones. Leaders connect, extensive extra communication, many more leadership connects sessions. So engagement is very important. When you don't know how when the person is disengaged and they start looking out. Huge focus on wellness, especially mental wellness. So coaching of leaders and enterprise assistance program and the HR team reaching out with some scheduled connects. The engagement is very important, and so we're looking at the engagement as something which engages people by heart. So some people have psychological need of helping others. So we have a program called Individual Social Responsibility. So there are various programs and people can participate. Some people may have penchant for education, so they can virtually take classes for a student. There are hobby clubs. So basically different themes that fulfill that larger purpose many of us have the need for. And I think on DEI, strong focus. We're looking at three things. So one is mommy returns. I mean, we need to still come up with the right title, but to help women colleagues who go through childbirth and issues related to that in all possible manner, what can be done. In fact, today itself, we have a meeting with all the buddy who have volunteered to be the buddy for one-on-one assistance to these colleagues. Second is looking mentoring, and third we're looking at women leadership program, which we journey-based programs of the duration 6 to 9 months. So these are the few measures we have taken to deal with the current skill shortage, or I would say amplified attrition problem that all of us are struggling with.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vinay, for sharing some great insights. And wellness, absolutely so critical at this point in time. And, not only talking about it, but really helping people live it is absolute key. Coaching connects, mentoring, women leadership programs, maternity coaching, significant. And I absolutely resonate with maternity coaching. It happens in EY as well. So I know how fulfilling that journey is for us. I'm a facilitator too, so I know how it is to run and facilitate a workshop on maternity coaching for women. It's amazing. Thank you. And I'd like to move to Saurabh Sharma. Saurabh, if you're on call, please, if you can introduce yourself. Over to you. Thank you.
Hi, Madhura. Thanks. This is Saurabh. Hi. I'm an SVP with First Source Solutions here. I'm driving the workforce management and operations risk across the enterprise. I think the topic is pretty apt. Ever since Professor Anthony, I think from Texas, as you shared, had coined the term, I think the lens that we should be looking at is a couple of things, right? The changes that have happened due to the pandemic, right? So, but majority of our workforce, right? I'm part of the BPO industry. Majority of us were traveling, were coming to work in an office, right? The remote working was perhaps 5-10%. In the US, Europe, or other markets, I think it was always prevalent. Some work was always being done as a teleworker, as we used to coin that term. But the work from anywhere or the remote working model came about with the pandemic, right? And with that, obviously, there were 2-3 areas and opportunities, right? So while the exit barriers reduced, the roles, as everybody started hiring, were opening up in a work from anywhere model, right? There's no need for somebody based out of Texas to move and relocate to the East Coast or the West Coast, etc. And in India as well, right? So I don't need to relocate from Bangalore to Chennai. I could do that work wherever I'm based, right? So that really, the exit barriers went down. But more pronounced was the fact that, even Vinay and some of the others alluded to, is the long COVID effect, right? The burnout, the COVID fatigue, coupled with the engagement issues, right? I'm not just going to office at all. And so the connects with my manager are pretty transactional, right? In some cases, people who have joined don't even know their manager. They've never met their manager face to face, right? So that, I think, coupled with, like I said, the COVID fatigue, the burnout that everybody experienced, the stress induced because of the second wave, which was the most deadly wave, really had that impact, right? So people, on one hand, has less desire to take that stressful work, started looking for perhaps a better sense of accomplishment, losing that, I would say, the traditional, values or traditional way of kind of looking at the work itself. And so you referred to the zillennials, right? So that requires a different level of engagement altogether, right? It's not just incentives, the R&Rs, the wellness programs. It's also upskilling, learning, upskilling, reskilling. But what came about in the Deloitte survey and other surveys is also the flexibility, right? With flexibility and the trust atmosphere. So they are looking for flexible work, right? The gig economy is not looking for the 9 to 5 as we used to call our jobs. They're looking for flexible work. While our workforce management fraternity is enabling that through various tools and processes and procedures. But overall, how do you kind of enable the flexi working, the trust atmosphere? I think that, and you would agree, the engagement overall has to kind of up the quotient there, right? I mean, there is a recent case. I mean, a couple of days back, everybody would have read about the CEO in the mortgage business firing 900 folks over a Zoom call, right? I mean, and now the backlash around it, right? So you're seeing how you treat employees. Could it have been done better? You have 10,000 employees. Could you have done it better? Could you have engaged one-on-one? Everybody understands the business cycles, right? But, the fact that you've created now trust issues with the rest of the 9,100 employees that are there, part of that organization, right? Again, so coming back, it's something that all of us have seen it, and perhaps because of COVID last year, people were shy of switching. This year, it's more pronounced. The job market itself is becoming very diverse, right? Like I said, the entry barriers are pretty low. You can join in for a job which is perhaps tagged to a city or a country. You could work from anywhere. The flexibility and the variety that you see now is very different than what perhaps some of us have, grown up with, right? Again, some of you already touched upon it. I would say the engagement, with all the points that you perhaps alluded to, Madhura, and all the best practices that most of the organizations already have implemented, the wellness programs, et cetera, will go a long way to create that trust atmosphere. And like I said, the flexibility that the zillennials are looking for. That will be the key to arrest this, great resignation wave, right? Otherwise, you would constantly, if the attrition was in single digits in some of the organizations, as the gentleman alluded to, it will actually change because it will have a ripple effect, right? People will move around where they get valued and treated the right way. So that's my take on it. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Saurabh. Wonderful. And, I think it was yesterday when we were discussing in one of the reviews about 28,000 people joining us in the last 20 months. And they haven't been able to see their team members and connect with people. So there's, some sort of a disconnect there, with employees, which is absolutely what we're all trying to bridge through these various connects. and ensure that we provide an environment which is more flexible, trust, based. And of course, skilling being a key to the whole piece, because people absolutely need to know that they are constantly challenged, they're learning, and there's something to look forward to. And somewhere I feel in the last 20 months, in the first phase of the COVID situation, people actually didn't know, they were taken aback by the entire pandemic, and they were all, it was like a freeze mode. They didn't know what to do, but they were constantly observing organizations.
Absolutely.
So how we behaved, as leaders in the organization really meant a lot, because not everyone really works for compensation, right? It is the respect, trust, and the values that we bring together as leadership that really make people and look forward to having them log in on a daily basis at 9 or 10 in the morning. So, and now is the time when the market is opened up, that they are probably trying to the folks who don't resonate with what the organization has to offer are trying to look for alternative paths. So absolutely, it's a wake-up call for many organizations, and we will continue to do our best there. And in forums like this, we get to hear some amazing perspectives, and I'm sure there'll be a lot to take back for all of us. Thank you, Saurabh, for that. And I'd like to quickly call Aditya Pal Singh, please. Thank you.
Hi, thanks, Madhura. I know we are 1 hour, 10 minutes into the time, and I just want to be respectful for the people who don't speak after me. So I'm going to take make a more like an elevator pitch for the next 1 minute or less. When I'm not going to sell my organization, I work for Informatica. It's a data management company, and that's the space most of the companies are in. Cloud first, cloud native. We just went IPO next month, so I'm sure you would have read about it. When it comes to if you look at from a COVID standpoint and realization, what has happened while people say great resignation is more like a realization, because if you look at the world, we've seen through 3 phases: the invention of electricity, which led to industrial revolution. Then you had invention of internet, which led to digital, and today pandemic has moved us to hybrid. So we've realized what is important. Look around in your own houses, you've realized what are important things and which are not, and you've segregated us, and I'm sure everybody agrees to that part. From a employer standpoint, employees have understood what is important to them, henceforth the change and movement out of companies. Secondly is earlier, your work used to revolve around your work and the life was peripheral. Now it's the other way around. So people are looking at flexibility, which is a big thing. And employers which are still trending towards being employer centric will not work. The henceforth the attrition. Career, people have taken up a lot of their hobbies as careers, and they moved into that direction. You see a lot of push out, so people have that realization because they've been able to spend time at home and realize what is important. The biggest churn of talent out is between 30 and 45, that particular age band. You've seen more push out of people at that particular period of time, because what has also happened is companies still want tenured folks to come and work for them. So the risk-taking ability is still not there from an organization perspective. And yes, and I think so. Before we started, I think we speaking to some of my panelists, and India's now number 3 in the startup setup. We see a lot of companies funding, a lot of companies coming up, setting up their operations. So the war for talent is extremely high. End of the day, if your organization goals does not resonate with the individual, whatever you might do, as what Mother also spoke about, it's not only compensation. Whatever you might go ahead and say, it won't matter. So that's it. Back to you, Madhura. Thank you.
Thank you so much, thank you so much, Aditya. And absolutely amazing to hear the short introduction as well as the perspectives. And yes, like you mentioned, in the interest of time, I'd love to move to Sampath. And we have a couple more speakers in the line. So I'm just quickly checking. Sampath, while you introduce yourself, if you could also talk about, analytics, or, anything to do with what are some of the strategies your organization is using today? Can we predict, this attrition? Is it possible? What are some of the things that your organization is doing? If it's possible, if you can share that, that would be great. Over to you.
Okay, Madhura.
Sampath. Thank you.
Sure. I will also follow the footsteps of my predecessor, Aditya.
Sure.
Thanks for presenting that. I may not be the right person to talk about analytics because, again, I'm from a manufacturing company and we don't have so much of resignations. As I said, in the past year, we have just seen about 10 operators leaving us. That's it. None of them from the staff or the managerial cadre. And again, my name is Sampath. I head HR for APAC for a manufacturing company called LAP. We are a family-owned German manufacturing company. We manufacture cables, and we would love to connect with employees, and that's our logo. What I feel we have kept up with even in the COVID times. So I'd like to just say, though we have not had resignations, one of the key reasons why we see that is the care and concern that the founders of the company, who are sitting far away in Germany, took about every employee in the organization. During COVID, we said we will not cut the salaries, though the founders themselves did not take any salary for full 9 months. And that itself was a great sign to the employees when we compare some of the employers asking employees to quit the organization. The second thing we did, we had a lot of operators. We had a lot of operators from Malaysia, and they were actually traveling. And those of you who are aware in Singapore, you know that. And for them, we actually provided hotel accommodation for as long as 6 months at the company's cost when the company was not even meeting the revenue expectations for that year. So, of course, we could not give a salary increment, but we did not ask even a single person to leave. We gave all this care and concern, including additional allowance for food for people who are going back to Malaysia to see their family. And once COVID was under control, we actually gave them money for SHN, stay home notice, which Singapore government was charging 2,000 Sing dollars per employee. We gave them once in 6 months. So in short, to tell you what we did, including operators or managers, is though we could not give a salary increment, what we tried giving is a feeling of they belonging to this family called LAP. And I personally believe that is one of the reasons why our business bounced back. And this year we have seen, as I said in the beginning, almost 30% more than what we have actually wanted to achieve the budget. And that's where, again, we are sharing with a fantastic bonus to all of them, which will come in the next couple of weeks, which I'm just working on. So that is in brief as to what we have done to do away with the negative aspects of COVID. And I still feel our operators who have to work in the factory because they don't have a choice, like working from home, they don't really mind coming because every week we do a testing at our cost, and anybody having any health problems, we send them back at our cost. So again, in short, if I can say, money took a backseat, revenue took a backseat, profitability took a backseat, human values stood first, and we are a German company, and true to it, the family actually took care of every employee in the whole globe. We have presence in 40 countries as if they belong to their own family. So that's in short what I would like to share about our experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sampath. That was a wonderful story that you narrated. And care and concern tops it all, and a sense of belonging, which gets us to really stay and not really so much of anything else. So absolutely wrong question, analytics. Totally opposite. So yeah, thank you, Sampath. Thanks a lot for your perspectives and thoughts there. And Roli, over to you.
Thanks, Madhura. Thanks for having me over. Right, so I head HR for VFI SLK, and it's a captive of Voya Financial Inc. And we are just 2 years old. We completed 2 years in August this year. And in terms of Voya Financials is a leading financial investments, health and wellness solutions company listed in NASDAQ, headquartered in New York. And this is their captive, which they have formed as a joint venture with SLK Software. Now, SLK, we all know, know, is known for IT services. And this captive largely right now houses 1,200 people, 600 towards the IT services side, right from your Java, Pythons to data analytics, and then financial services, which includes actuarial, investments, and financial ops. Now, for us, we started off in 2019, and during the pandemic, we onboarded 800 people. Which was a pretty stellar task. But then for an organization which is still setting its foot and figuring out, we have 1,000 people, employees who are not integrated into the organization. So now today, we are trying to put a lot of things in place. And I think in many ways from an HR context, I think it's an interesting time to put things in place because we can then adapt to the current situation. We don't really have a legacy. Now, Boya is a great place to work, certified organization, very high on employee empathy and culture. And we are, in the process of inculcating those values. So right from while, our attrition is not so high in the financial services side, it's just 5%, but it's pretty high, around 18%. And we are hiring like around 100, 150 people per month, and then we have backfills, it's quite a bit. So on the ground, what we are doing is we are trying to adapt to the need of the hour, and we're doing an onboarding. I'm told that in IT, it's a practice that you offer tonight and the onboarding is the next day. So we're doing onboardings every day. Ideally, we should do it like twice a week, from an employee experience perspective, because everything takes a toss, ensuring that the experience is great. So while we are trying to, we are dealing, I think agility is the need of the hour, dealing with ambiguity and agility. So the team's putting their best effort. Having said that, the CEO, the HR team, we're all new, leaders are relatively new, and we're trying to hit the ground running. So we're re-looking at our HR strategy. We're not a very well-known brand in terms of people, employees, candidates. They remember SLK that has a larger brand value. So we are in the process of building our own brand. So we are in the process of re-looking at our EVP and coming up with a unique value proposition. And while we do that, look at on the parallel on the total rewards philosophy, fit in, career paths, employee experience across, ensuring that the manager effectiveness is also on the high. We've set ourselves a benchmark. So from June, we want to, start the process of, looking at getting certified on great places to work next year. So we have to put a house on order on, this year. So, so that's a stellar task. And I would say entire thing, but we're picking up big pieces this year. Culture assimilation is one of our core things which we want to do because we want to integrate and take our employees along with us. And while we do that, we'll be around 2,000 people by end of 2023. So 2022, so integrating them and also continuing to engage with the existing people. So that's our core focus. So lots happening, but I think it's an exciting time. And, it's more to develop an emotional connect with our existing employees and telling them, how invested we are in with them and be a part of our journey as we continue to grow and establish our brand in a bigger way in the industry. So yeah, that's where we are. I'll just, and I guess in the interest of time, if any questions we can take, and maybe I can share more in terms of what we are doing and how we are doing. We're still in the formulating stage.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Roli. And Kirloskar is a big brand and absolutely well known. And I had the privilege of visiting for one of the HR studies, your office, which is very close to Nandi Hills in Bangalore, which is a beautiful office. Yeah, it's a beautiful office. Thank you.
And just the point, which I just wanted to add, in terms of hybrid and whether we come back to work. So one approach which we have adapted as a best practice from Boya, we looked at the skills and the roles which can totally work independently. They can work remotely. Roles which need an interaction or need guidance or leaders who need to be in office. Those roles we are planning to make it hybrid. So it's just not total hybrid, but it's also remote plus hybrid combination. That's what we're planning to implement.
Thank you so much, Roli. Yes, Sri, over to you.
A quick time check. How many more speakers we have?
Sri, we have about 5.
So why can't we ask
Start the questions. That's what
because
exactly.
we don't have time.
Absolutely.
So that each one can start give preference to them. Then we.
Absolutely, Shri. Thank you so much for that. And Renu, I'd like to welcome you. And there is a quick question I have for you. Since you are an HR professional and an HR leader, we're just trying to understand, should organizations come together to build a code of conduct to win this war together? For example, not to hire candidates who have an offer already, or not to hire an employee who's changed a job in the last 24 months. Anything like this. What are your thoughts? Please introduce yourself and share your perspectives around that.
So I'm Renu. I head HR for Shankar India, which is the global player in contract logistics and freight forwarding. To your question, whether the organizations should come together as a league, or I don't think it's possible. And I think it is against the format of work because we have not still understood why people are resigning. I think that is more important to even understand. And it is not that they are resigning from high-paid job. We also heard from at the beginning that people are living, people who were low-paid workers also have not joined back. Truckers have not come back to their jobs. So I think we should first of all try to understand why people work, what is leisure and what is work. And I'm going a bit philosophical here, but that is what I think somewhere we should try to understand as practitioner. And we should also understand that there's a disillusionment post opening up. There's a disillusionment, or there is a fatigue. We also heard the word burnout. And there is a kind of rejection from people of their current way of working, whether it is organization induced, whether the grass is green on the other side or not, but there is a disillusionment. So we need to have an out-of-the-box solution. Like you are suggesting some of the out-of-the-box solution. So what we have tried pre-pandemic also in the organization, that we had people leaving the organization very frequently, and they were knocking the door after 6 months also. So we have this kind of embargo, we call, that you can't join the organization if you leave for at least for 2 years. And then I think we found that it worked very well. People, if they had issues with their managers, they would come across the table with HR and try to find out some other way out, that can we be redeployed, can we look for some other role. So that would help. But having this solution that people who, and also like we follow that people who don't show up, we kind of blacklist them. So that is one of the way organizations can do, but we cannot make solution for all the organizations, because at the end of the day, hiring becomes very contextual. Why did the person did not show on that particular day or for joining? It could be because he or she may be undergoing some personal issues as well. What we have tried recently in one of the our BU business unit is that when we are giving offer letters, we are putting one clause that if you accept the offer and you don't join, then we will deduct, you will be payable. You're liable to pay 2 months salary or something like that. We have put this clause in one business unit. Now there were two opinions. Like we had two legal retainers, and both were divided on this opinion. But what has been the benefit? We have found that in the last 8 weeks, if we gave, say, a couple of offers, 10% of them did not pick the offer, which I think that it worked as a deterrent, or it worked as an indicator to us that this person may not have the intention to join, or maybe playing with the offer. So there is no one solution, but I still believe that our approach to hiring has to be relooked at. We are very, very, at times HR does hiring, or people do hiring, business does hiring on experience based. We should be open to, have talent who have not even worked in our industry, but may have competency around that. That is where I think we have to be open. And we, as HR and as organization, I think we should be very open to the workplace format. In 2 years, we tried work from home. It was successful. Then suddenly we are just asking everybody to come back, and as if there was no pandemic at all. There's no lesson learned. So I think workplace format has to be relooked at, because why do people work, and what is work-life balance all about? even working time format has to be relooked. If you are a working woman and you have small kids and you would like to spend time maybe at 9 a.m. with them, is the organization giving the flexibility to maybe work from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. and then late in the evening or something like that? And also the role of managers. I think we have glorified managers by calling them leaders. And this is my personal view. We glorified, and somewhere they don't even know what is managerial excellence all about. And to any worker or any employee, manager is organization. So there are toxic managers, there are great managers, and people at the end of the day work for relationship. So I think that has to be looked at. These are my views. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Renu. And flexible workplace formats and building people managers is absolutely key. And we thank you for all the perspectives that you shared. And I'd like to pass this on to our next leader, who is George, along with a question, George, for you, since you lead workforce management. And the question that I have for you is, since we heard a lot about HR from both the leaders just now, how can people supply chain management or workforce management help organizations win this war for talent? Doing any advanced workforce planning, strategic workforce management, tactical workforce management, internal skill development, etc. If you can please throw some perspectives there.
Thank you, Madhura. Yeah, thank you for this, first of all, for this great initiative. I'm George Kagalos, the head of workforce for Teleperformance EMEA, already 15 years in the industry. First of all, I would like to tell you that, speaking about my company, we managed to adopt to the new reality super fast, moving the majority of our active capacity to work from home. The last 2 years during the pandemic, this was great but necessary adaptation, which gave us the chance to continue working in the new reality. In the call center industry, the need of talent for new talents is non-stop, and it's growing super fast. The competition between the vendors is really high, and the main goal is to give the employees the chance to work in an environment that respecting their work-life balance, first of all, and giving them the chance to grow. You said how WFM can support on that. First of all, we need to know why this is happening in order then to support HR, to support operations. So on the top of our strategies, first of all, we need to predict that. And the WFM role on the prediction of the attrition is huge because of analytics. How we can predict that? First of all, we need to close monitor our employees. And when I'm referring on monitoring, the efficiency and the quality metrics monitoring is not the only part. Yes, a negative trend on efficiency or continuously bad results on customer satisfaction can be an alarm from their final exit. On the other hand, I think that we need to monitor their daily motivation, their feelings. An unhappy employee from day to day will leave us. A more regular satisfaction survey, for instance, will be something that can give us an idea of what is coming and be more proactive on that. Why they are unhappy, why they are looking for, what they are looking for, what we need to change. These are some questions that can help us understand their demotivation inputs. Also, we have the weapon coming from the analytics. WFM team should proceed with many correlation analysis and define the reasons of our employee dissatisfaction, taking actions before this may happen. Finally, WFM should work closely with HR and operations in order to offer the best option for our people. We should speak the same language, especially when we are recruiting new employees. For example, we need to make clear to the candidates which will be the working hours for them, which must be the process for vacation planning, for swaps, for trades, for days off, for overtimes, etc., when we're talking about call center industry, in order to know what to expect. Finally, the employees need security, so we should offer that to them. So again, thank you very much for this discussion, and we will have the chance to analyze them later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, George. That was really insightful. And I'd like to pass this on to Dr. Debashish, who is from Harvard and has done extensive research on employee engagement and is currently working in the University of Bahrain to talk about an insightful question that we have for you, sir, on, is compensation, counter offers, retention bonuses, high salary increases, only solution to win this war for talent? What is your perspective based on the extensive research you've done on what else should organizations be doing today to go ahead and manage this? Over to you, sir, please.
Thank you very much, Madhura. And I'm Dr. Devashish Sengupta. Let me just quickly tell you, I'm professor at Royal University for Women in Bahrain, university which is dedicated to the higher education, progress and development of women, not only in Bahrain, but in the entire GCC region and beyond. So it's a privilege to be working with this institution. As an academic and a researcher, I'm a little odd person out because I can see that I'm surrounded by the wealth of wisdom from the corporate world. But I don't feel so odd because I've had the opportunity also working very closely with industry in terms of my research. And a question that you asked, is compensation really enough in terms of winning this war for talent? I don't think so, because I think that two news, that recently, kind of caught my attention. One of them was what Saurav had mentioned a little bit earlier, is about the Better.com CEO firing 900 employees with Zoom. And then, of course, there is a huge backlash, not only in the company, but outside. And then, of course, we saw that some of the senior executive leaders of Better.com quit after that. And then, of course, the CEO also tried to apologize, but too little, too late. And then there is another news which caught my attention, was of person Daniel Jones, who runs a retreat called as the Abu Naki Trail at North Conway in New Hampshire, who has, whose organization actually has not faced a single attrition. There is not a single person who has left. Amidst this all, pandemonium of great resignation, her organization has remained immune to it. And, some of the things that I was reading was about how much she spends in terms of taking care of each and every employee, and it's not only the amount of spending, but it's also the personal care. So I think it all goes back to something which is very fundamentally we all understand, but I think there is a renewed importance to look at it, and that's the organizational culture, and I think that is where we need to look at that perspective and how we view engagement, how we view managing human behavior, understanding human behavior, and then looking at this resetting of this culture and resetting of the engagement strategies. And I say this reset because I think there have been three major disruptions, if I can quickly put them. The first disruption that I see is a generational disruption. The second disruption is the pandemic, of course, we all know it. And the third disruption is the disruption which has been caused by the fourth industrial revolution. Now, let me just spend just quick few seconds on each of these disruptions. First is the generational disruption. Now, even before this pandemic started, my research has, my two recent publications have been on the life of Y, which is on millennials, a book on millennials, engaging millennials as employees and workers. Both have been with Sage. And the recent one has been the life of Z, which has been on Generation Z or Zeners that we call. Now, we had this, obviously, even before this pandemic, multiple generations, boomers, Generation X, millennials working together. And now, of course, Generation Z also entering the workforce. But what has happened during the pandemic is one thing is that boomers, if you see, we are talking mostly of the US statistics in terms of the great resignation. But now in US, if you see, boomers have been forced to early retirement. So this has meant, obviously, that boomers have retired at least 3-4 years or 5 years before they were set to retire and are largely exiting the workforce. So now who is then, obviously it suddenly puts the other two generations, Generation Z, X and millennials into more limelight. Now, when we talk about millennials, millennials are a generation, and of course Generation Z, who have lived a very different time, lived transformed times, and hence, it has been part of my research and my argument is that their attitudes, their mindsets, their behaviors are largely shifted from the previous generation, and also in terms of their life realities, right? The how the life realities. For instance, one of my researchers pointed at the paradoxes that dot their lives, and hence dot all of their wellness elements, whether it is the material wellness, whether it's the physiological wellness, whether it is their social wellness or emotional wellness, right? So and then millennials, when we look at, they are now dominating the workforce in terms of the, like, in another couple of years, they will be the largest percentage of the working population all over the world. In US, it is already there. In India, has the highest number of millennials anywhere in the world. So India, by far and large, is the youngest country. But having said this, it is very important to understand the generation that we are dealing with. Now, for instance, take millennials, for instance. Millennials have perhaps been the most unlucky generation in terms of when they were entering the workforce, and they faced the Great Recession, that the recession which hit, and in 2008, 2009, which obviously took away the many of the dream jobs that they dreamt of. The incomes really didn't really go up, or didn't receive what they had been promised, what they had been actually aspiring for, right? If you see in real terms, although in face value terms, millennials seem to be earning more than the previous generation, but in real terms, adjusted to purchasing power parity and inflation, millennials actually earn lesser. The first generation to actually earn lesser than their parents, right? And then once when they are in the mid-career stages, then this pandemic struck, which again has struck a hard blow on their so if you look at in terms of the job security is very low, right? We talk of course how much opportunities they might have now, how much income they might have now, but what about the job security? It can disappear. All this can actually disappear in a matter of days, and suddenly everything can change, and they may not be left with what they have, right? So these are the paradoxes. In terms of many of these paradoxes that I don't find time here to discuss, but whether it is hits them socially or it helps them emotionally, there are so many things that we have to understand that millennials have faced two major setbacks, one during the early part of the career and one during the mid-career. And if you see, the resignations have been, I think, the most in the mid-career segment. That's where the resignations have been the most. Now we talk about the Generation Z, right? Now, Generation Z has just been entering the workforce when this pandemic happened. And then they, we have to understand many of these, these generations are not the same, as they don't think the same, the way, the previous generation used to think. Like, for instance, one of the things we say about Generation Z is that they have this life philosophy as FIRE. So financial independence, retire early, right? So they don't want to work till 60, they don't want to work till they get gray hairs on the head. So they want to, have financial independence and retire early and do what, something that they like, they are passionate about. So we have to understand that we are dealing with a generation. So that is, I think, a major disruption. So I think there is a renewed need to understand these generations, what their life realities are. And I think only when we understand them, understanding them is a precursor to engaging them. That is number one. Number two is the pandemic disruption. The pandemic, of course, nobody was prepared for this. It caught everybody unawares. As you said a few minutes back, that people went into the freeze mode, but they were looking at the organization leaders. Now, in one of my recent researches, which is at this, has recently published, I tried to capture what happened with this, when these emergent work arrangements, were imposed on all of us, So, people never thought that in education we could work, like, for instance, remotely, or teach, like from remotely, but we did.
Dr. Devadish, if you don't mind, if we can wrap up next 1 minute, appreciate, because we are running little time off here. I really appreciate. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Right. So in terms of the pandemic disruption, where the workers, in terms of looking at that, the awake hours becoming the work hours, the line between their work and life disappearing, the work-life integration, right? So in terms of the kind of stress that everybody faced, the triggered stress, infodemic, and the triggered stress that I called as the information pandemic also, to thanks to the social media and thanks to all the media that we have, the income setbacks that they had, many of them lost their jobs, many of them had their salaries cut, the rising expenses and the shrinking incomes. So social isolation that everybody faced, or the collaboration impediments that happened, or the kind of suddenly that we had to cope up with digital or new technology. Many of them who were not so fluent with the technologies faced that. So there is a pandemic disruption that happened, and the third disruption that has happened has been in terms of the disruption with perspective of the fourth industrial revolution. Recently I worked with an organization which is Future of Earth in UK, and we were doing the mapping of the skill sets for the future. And if you look at all the major organizations, whether it's the McKinsey or the World Economic Forum or Forbes or IFTF, all of them have researched and listed the skills for the future. And if you look at the top 10 skills, these skills are nothing related to your domain expertise or domain knowledge.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely, Debashish. Thank you so much. I see the passion that you bring to the table. Thank you for all the wonderful insights. And I'm sure if we really had more time, we'd absolutely have you get going. But we have just 2 more speakers to go. Thank you, Debashish, for the great insights. And I absolutely resonate with what you say. I'm just going to invite Vijay and Joydeep together. And there is a very quick question for both of you, if you could answer that while you also introduce yourself, while we are towards the end of the session almost. So today, the most demanded professionals in the world today are HR professionals, especially recruiters who have a huge responsibility. So how ready are we as HR professionals today to play in this market? If you could please throw some light on that, Vijay, as well as Joy, then that will be great.
Hi, thank
you. And if you could please take 2 minutes to do that, that would be great as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madhura. It's funny that you asked me this question, because the organization I lead and the team that I lead involves close to 1,100 technology recruiters today. And that's an area that I spend every day on. So trust me, it's something which keeps me awake, keeps me going as such. So without doubt, I think to quicken up, organizations are battling between talent attraction versus talent retention. Both are becoming increasingly important. And what we're doing on the talent attraction front, I think what's missing and what companies are increasingly doing is trying to keep their hiring managers up to date. I think the gap on hiring managers doing recruiting right was big, and I think that's coming down slow. And on talent retention, I think the hyper-personalization of the engagement at the employee level is significantly high today. When interviews were done one-on-one, when exit interviews were done one-on-one, employee engagement, however, was fairly generic. So I think in the last 6 months, you've seen the hyper-personalization, which you also alluded to, about the learning journey of each employee is different as such. And I'm just going to finally close out on the Gen Z part, which whether it's a recruiter, whether it's a software engineer, whether it's any employee that's coming into the workforce today, I think organizations will have to find out what is their definition of loyalty, what is their definition of flexibility, and what's their definition of commitment. I think assumptions of the previous generations on these definitions are very different from how Gen Z sees it today. So I think I'll stop there.
Thank you, lovely. Loyalty, flexibility, and commitment. Thank you. And I see Shri is nodding and probably is very tempted to say something. Shri, if there is anything you want to add or just share any perspectives, because I know recruitment is very close to your heart.
No, sure. Maybe I'll summarize at the end. Why can't we finish other?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Shri.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shri. So if the same question can be picked up by Joydeep as well,
sure.
that'd be great.
Thanks, Madhura. A quick introduction. As you already said, my name is Joydeep Chakravarti. I head human resources for Explio Group for the India region, which has 3 entities, plus globally for the digital and consulting businesses. Coming to a point, I think it's a very relevant point, and let me just share 2 thoughts before I answer the question. So what I always say that when you look at a recruiter, and this is my pet peeve, that when you talk about a recruiter as well as a business development guy, both are selling the service or a promise. A business development guy is selling what we can provide to a customer, and the recruiter is selling what the company has for a candidate. But the way they are treated are very, very different. I mean, a business development guy takes 6 months to get a $5 million business wearing a Rolex watch, whereas a recruiter is someone who is expected to get 10 CVs a day and 15 interviews, whatever, per day or 2 days or 3 days or whatever it is. And the treatment are very, very different. That's point number one. Secondly, recruiters, I notice in many companies are still measured by quantity and not quality. It is about how many requirements you closed in a week or a month or a year. It is not about the quality. And this current situation where this pandemic is on, last year there was a bit of a, what should I say, consolidation of organization. Recruitment was low, but this year it has gone crazy. I mean, we have gone from 2,000 in India alone to 3,800 within 10 months' time, and our target is to close 5,000 by March. And what we realized more and more is that one is, are we really ensuring the recruiters from basic questions like bandwidth and knowledge, and then bigger questions like incentivizing the person, not just in terms of money, in terms of how he's treated. I mean, how is the individual treated? How do you support the person in achieving? And most of the recruiters are not even aware today how to recruit in the current format where you can't see people face to face. Plus, many of them are seen people purely as paper pushers. They are the ones who are supposed to source CVs. They're supposed to schedule the interviews, but not really all recruiters are allowed to make an offer. But they are the ones who interacted with candidates so much. So both these aspects of one, understanding the fact that it is not a quantity job anymore, it is a quality job. So that's where L&D comes and plays a very big role. Madhura, I'm not saying this because you're from L&D, but it's definitely one area which is ignored. I don't see much of recruitment teams undergoing serious learning and development interventions. And the second part is in terms of the job they are doing, how do we ensure that beyond just giving them more incentives, we make them enjoy the work more than this? I'm sure even Aditya would agree with me on this, that the way the whole treatment, the exposure and the growth we see for them is very, very important. I'll keep this to 2 minutes because otherwise it could have gone on much longer. So that's from my side, Madhura.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Joydeep. And I totally agree with you. And I know we have just about 10 minutes and we're all extremely passionate leaders. But I'd like to hand it over to Shri. Shri, if you can please take the baton on and summarize and also share your perspectives, please.
Thanks, Madhura. Did we cover all the panel members?
Yes.
Did we miss anybody? Okay, because we need to be fair to everybody.
Absolutely, Shri. Yes, we've covered everybody, Shri.
Okay, thank you. I think as Madhura mentioned, this is an exciting topic. With all the panel members' experience and passion and the interest in the topic, we can keep going for another 2-3 days continuously, I'm very sure. So thanks for your perspective. Thanks for your passion on the topic, as well as thanks for finding time to spend with us last 2 hours. Greatly appreciate. So to sum up, as Madhura mentioned, the war for talent or the great resignation or the great attrition, like my friend mentioned, don't call it resignation, attrition. I feel it is not a bubble which will burst in next 1 or 2 quarters. It is going to stay a little more time. Some of the predictions says it will stay for next 10 years, especially technology and digital skill set will be in a huge demand because every industry, every function, every domain is getting reimagined with the digital skill set. So we need to really prepare for a long haul or a long run. The companies who have long-term strategy to fight this war for talent and the great resignation or great attrition is going to win. That's the first conclusion I would like to mention after hearing all your thoughts and ideas. The second one is the topic called great resignation or great attrition is no more a talent topic. It's a business topic. Every business leader at every level, and it is being discussed at the board of directors or the board level. I started a reimagination of talent in EY, telling my talent professionals, the business of talent is business. That's what I said. So I told them, learn business and ensure that you contribute to the business success. And also mentioned whose business is talent. It's everyone's business. It's not only, don't take the heat on your shoulders. If recruitment is failed, it's not only recruitment failed, it's entire organization failed. So business of talent is business, and whose business is talent is everyone's business. How do you really create an entire ecosystem of partners, talent, the business managers, the senior leadership to fight this is very, very important. So today I tell to business, the business of business today is talent. Earlier I started saying the business of talent is business. Today, business of business is talent. In many of the business meeting, if it's a 1 hour, 45 to 50 minutes, they talk about talent attraction and retention and engagement. Every business leader, huge demand is there. They did not go and sell the demand in the marketplace on solution. It's already there. But they are really worried about how do I meet this demand through supply system in talent or labor is the topic. So that's the second topic. First one is going to stay for a long time. Second one is the business is talent, and business of talent is business. So how do you work together to fight this war for talent? The third one I would like to mention is we discussed through a question that whether compensation can alone solve the problem. Absolutely no. Not only compensation, every tangible asset of an organization, like compensation, tangible, you can measure it, you can count it, or rewards and recognition, promotions, all this is not enough. We need to focus on intangible assets, like Dr. Harry mentioned earlier, the culture, the leadership, the purpose, the passion, the skill, the care, the sense of belonging. These are intangible. Intangible means it's a discrete data. It's not a continuous data like tangible. Very difficult to measure it and very difficult to impact it. The organization who are successful in measuring these intangible assets, culture, skills, leadership, passion, engagement, experience, are going to make a difference. And today, thanks to digital technologies, AI, ML, or even blockchain or 3D printing is applied in talent to leverage intangible assets into tangible outcome. And can you really leverage this into war for talent? The last one, I always believe there are 3 professions which is noble professions in the world. There are many, but I give importance to 3. One is the teaching. The teachers are most respected in this because it is a noble profession. They give foundation to your life. So it's most dignified role one can think of. Second one is doctors, medicine, or paramedical professionals. Today, especially in COVID era, we know how much they are respected. They are next to God. The third one, I believe from my experience, is the talent professionals. A good talent professional can impact the lives of thousands and thousands of people working in an organization. Through them, you're impacting their family and community. So I feel being a talent profession, I'm honored. It's a noble profession. It's something respected in many fields of the society. So in my 30 years of experience, I did many business roles. I got a full-time business role, but I refused to move out of the talent because I personally believe talent is a noble profession. So if you remember, there's an article 3 decades back, it's published when I was a student in Foster company called Why We Hate HR. And today, if you read that article, today also, most of the narration in that article is relevant in today's industry. The business and the employees and managers hated HR. And they continue to hate in some of the companies I know where I have friends and colleagues, they hate it by the business and by the employees. And another article written by 3 Harvard students, because most of the Harvard students go to financial institution or capital market related company or strategic company like McKinsey, Bain. But these 3 students went and joined talent. And they written a beautiful article, Why We Join Talent. And they found talent is a profession you can make a difference to the business. So one day I may write an article, why I stayed in talent, although I got many business roles, because I feel in the next 1 decade, the most wanted professionals in the world, the most highly paid professionals in the world will be talent professionals. That's the reason, Madhura, I appreciate your question. Is talent ready? In the organization I worked, talent have a seat at the table. But in EY, my boss, when he hired me, told me, Sri, that seat is 2 inches taller than other seats on the table. Because I respect talent than any other function. I worked in G when Jack Welch was there. Jack Welch used to be my right hand is Bill Konate, who is a CHR, not finance, not marketing. So talent professionals will be most wanted people in the next 1 decade. And a good talent professional can make a huge difference in the organization with a digital skill set and agile mindset and a deep understanding of data. And you can really leverage intangible assets into tangible outcome, and who feel talent is a passion and who can connect their purpose into organizational purpose, and who see the talent is a noble profession, they will do extremely well. They will be wanted in this. Maybe 20 years or 30 years back, talent is not a pure science. Talent, when I say HR, it's an applied science of psychology, sociology, statistics. Today, every topic in talent, right from recruitment, compensation, performance, learning, leadership, culture, skills, will, everything is a science, a pure science. Because a lot of innovation, a pure science have a body of language and it has gone through iteration of innovation. So every topic in talent is a science by itself. Whether it's recruitment is science today. Earlier, with all respect, anybody could have done recruitment. Today, no. We want recruiters with a deep understanding of the domain of recruitment, who understand the data science behind it, who understand intangible assets of recruitment, how to leverage it. I can keep going. I'm just watching the time. With that, thank you very much for a passionate discussion. I'm very sure this topic will be discussed in different forums and different levels. This is not going to die. I'm consciously waiting to watch your social media, your thoughts and your experience in different forums. And I learned a lot. Thank you very much, Partha and Shiva, for arranging this wonderful session. Thanks, Madhura. In a short time, you moderated very well. Thank you very much. We are very proud about you. And other colleagues, some of you I'm hearing first time, fabulous perspective and excellent narrative. Keep the good job going. Share it with the forums like this. We can learn from each other. With that, namaste and thank you very much. Wish you all the best. And stay fit and stay happy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reese. Thank you, Madhura, for conducting this. And, we were scared that, she would get stuck, but he made an appearance, and what an appearance this is, right?
Thanks,
So,
Reese, for taking your time out, and thanks, Madhura, for a wonderful moderation. And deepest gratitude to all the panel and all the distinguished speakers and the audience who have been there. And we had some questions. However, we would try answering offline. With that,
sure. And in some form, I think the question was answered in the speaker, responses that we got. So thank you, Shiv. Thanks a lot, Partho. Thank you, Shri, for the opportunity. Thanks a lot, wonderful speakers. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
You too. All the best. Stay blessed. Stay blessed. Have a wonderful Christmas and a glorious New Year.
Thank you, Partho.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.